Hey guys, this is Rays. I'm bringing you tutorial number 6 in the HUD from Scratch tutorial series. Now, a lot of the stuff I'm going to be covering today, I covered in part 5 of the series, which went over positioning within a panel and positioning of the health. And today we're going to be doing the ammo, which is slightly different, and so I'll touch base with those different things. But I'm going to try to make this video a lot more brief because a lot of the information that I covered before carries over into this newer video, or like into this lesson. So if any of the concepts I go over aren't like 100% clear with you, then I would recommend, if you're not watching these in order, that you at least go back and watch the one on health positioning and health setup, because a lot of the stuff that we're doing here it's pretty much the same deal. And I think I'll go ahead and launch the game, but as the game launches here, this is kind of where, in my eyes, I think the tutorial is really going to start to pick up, because before we were doing basics and basics, like, oh, I'll go into this later, I'll cover this later, but now we're reaching that point where a lot of the same techniques that we've gone over will begin to repeat themselves. Like, you'll begin to see the same stuff over and over and over again. So let me go ahead and load into the map CP Badlands here, and while that's going on, we'll dig right into it. So the first thing you need to make sure you have, I guess I beefed it. All right. Okay, the first thing you need to make sure you have, if you haven't already got this, is you need to go to your base HUD files. You need to find the file called HUD ammo weapons.res and drag it into your resource UI folder, so it'll be right next to your HUD player health here. And I think I covered that in the last video, but if you haven't already done that, do that now. And the nifty thing about this is, well, not nifty, it's kind of, actually, it bothers me. It's that Valve made a boo-boo, because remember we did our ammo positioning in our HUD layout.res file with the panel name HUD weapon ammo. However, whenever they were actually getting around to naming the actual HUD file itself that controls all of the things within that panel, they accidentally flipped around the ammo and the weapon words. So instead of HUD weapon ammo, we have HUD ammo weapons. Just kind of an odd thing, but I don't know. What are you gonna do, right? So let's go ahead and get into our Badlands, and boom, here we are. We'll go ahead and leave this guy on. Okay, so here we've got our ammo, and it's generally in the right spot, but as you can see, it doesn't nearly have the same styling as our health, and we want to fix that. So I'm gonna actually open up our HUD player health file, so we can get the same font. Because generally, in style-wise, it's a good practice to have the same font for your health as your ammo. That way, people can easily look at them and whatever, and it looks more clean, in my opinion. So we're gonna just copy that initially, and I can't remember if I had already covered this in the other video or not, but if I did, I might have accidentally made a few edits without recording, because I actually tried to record a few takes of this, and I accidentally started explaining the wrong thing, and I didn't want you guys to have misinformation, so I just scratched it. But on the off chance that I did do something, I will do my best to go back over and cover what it is that I did. But again, we're going to copy the font size from our player status health value, because it will be put into use again here in the HUD ammo weapons.res file. And right off the bat, you'll see that this file is not nearly as big. It's about 174 lines of code, and other than the initial few things, the HUD weapon ammo background and the low ammo image, there's just two sections of code for your ammo and clip, which represents this big 6 on the screen, which is the amount of ammo you currently have loaded. Ammo in reserve, an ammo in reserve shadow, which is, of course, that little 130, or not 132, the little 32 in the lower right-hand section of the ammo panel, which controls the ammo that you don't have loaded, but you have, on you. And then the last section, you'll see there's ammo no clip and ammo no clip shadow, and those correspond to classes like the heavy or the pyro, where there is, only this one ammo count that you can't necessarily reload, but it's just kind of a set amount. And that's controlled with the HUD, or the no clip. So let's get right to it. The first thing we want to do is we want to get rid of that ugly background, because we don't like that. So first things first, again, we can get rid of useless stuff that we don't need, because we don't want our our code to be jumbled. So we'll get rid of the min modes and the high res and low res because we're not dealing with that. But then we'll first change visual and enable to 0. Do a HUD reload scheme, and you'll see, boom, that's gone, and that's already looking a lot cleaner. So then we need to get rid of the HUD weapon low ammo image, and if you don't know what that is on the default HUD, a lot of, like, pretty much every HUD I've ever seen gets rid of it, but if you're running low on ammo, it actually, like, flashes the background at you, and we don't really like that very much. Yeah, you'll see that weird flashing. We don't really like that, so we're gonna get rid of that too, which is controlled here. So again, we just change our visible and then enabled to 0. Save, do our HUD reload scheme, and again, this is when when that doesn't work, we go into the next step that I've taught you guys on how to remove HUD elements. So we'll change our white and tall values to 0, and boom, that's gone. All right, that's cool. And now we're just left with the ammo counts, and again, it's good to use the VGUI draw tree to check out all of the frame elements, or I guess the elements within the frame, because it kind of gives you a better idea of what it is you're looking at. So we're going to actually do that really quick just to prove to you guys what I was talking about, or like the backgrounds, like the drop shadows and the ammo counts are actually what they are. We're going to look at the panel. So again, that's controlled within HUD weapon ammo, which is, again, it corresponds with the name of the .res file. And here we go, we've got our ammo and clip reserve, and you can see that the box shifts over very slightly whenever you click between the two. And then same thing with our ammo and reserve, right? So boom, there we go. And the styling for this goes pretty much exactly the same as the HUD player health, which is, you change the font and the FG colors, and those are the main ones, and then from there you can go ahead and do your positioning further. Now there's something nifty to know about the text alignment thing, but we'll get to that in a second. So first things first, we want our font size for our main ammo count to be the same size, and we want our FG color to be the same color as the health. And again, you'll see that this is named white_TF2HUD, and if you don't know what that is, just in order to clarify what the font, or I guess the colors I used were, and to be able to reuse them quickly and on the fly, instead of manually copy-pasting the same RGB color values over and over again, I just defined them at the very top of our client scheme.res file. Again, you'll see black is just defined as 000-255, and white is defined as 255, 255, 255, 255. And I think I touched briefly on that in the HUD player health video, but I went ahead and did it here. And again, I can't remember if I actually did this on video or not, so if I didn't, that's really the only difference. Just define your colors like right at the top, and you can comment them out to let them know that these are your HUD colors. That way you don't get them mixed up with all the other TF2 ones, and there we go. Again though, before I move on, try to name them with some distinctive like suffix, like _TF2HUD or _myHUD, because if you don't make the distinction in the names, like if I just named this black and named this white, I don't even have to scroll down very far to find the TF2's own versions of white and black. And we don't want to like overwrite stuff that we don't know what's going on, because for all you know, if you type something incorrectly, or you define black as purple for whatever reason, then you might accidentally change the value of other things within the HUD that you don't even realize. So just try to make your variable names distinct. I guess that's what I'm getting at. But anyways, we'll dig right into it. So first things first, we're just going to change our font and our FG color with that Bico bold and that white TF2 HUD font. That way it'll match the health here. And again, we're going to get rid of all of the excess stuff we don't need, all of the min modes and the high def and the low def. But if you're doing your HUD where there is a min mode version, again, you don't have to get rid of that. But I'm not doing that for the sake of these tutorials, so I'm going to get rid of it. And you'll see we'll do a HUD reload scheme, and boom, we have our ammo count actually matching the health count. And you'll see that the drop shadow is not the same, but that's because we haven't done the same thing yet to the drop shadow. So again, we'll copy paste this, and we'll change our white _TF2 HUD to a black, because again, the drop shadows doesn't need to be white. That would be silly. And there you go. So we've got this nifty thing. Now, however, I think I gave the health a drop shadow of 2 instead of 1. You can see here that the X position and the Y position are only adjusted. Oh, I didn't even get rid of this. Silly me, I forgot. you'll see that the X position and the Y position are changed by value of 1. See 4 to 5 and 0 to 1, but we actually want to make that 2, so we're going to make that 6 and 2. Save HUD reload scheme, and there we go. So now our ammo is starting to look a little bit more like our health value, but again, you can see that the top's cut off, and this goes back to our panel explanation that we were talking about, where if the panel, like the panel or the inner panel within the main panel isn't big enough for whatever you're trying to edit, then things will still get cut off. So we're going to actually adjust that a little bit. We'll make it like, I think 70 should be wide. We'll make it 100 just to be safe by 50. And we'll do a HUD reload scheme. And oh right, yeah, and so you'll see here that this value changed location, and the reason it did that is because it's currently aligned by southeast, I think. Yeah, right. No, actually no. Yeah, it's because of its text alignment here, and again we'll cover that in more detail in a second here. But you'll see that this moved because it was aligned from the eastern side of the panel. Then whenever you make your adjustments here, then again of course it's going to be positioned on the eastern or right hand side of the panel. And so we'll adjust our wide and tall values of our ammo and clip shadow panel to mirror that, and that should also move over the shadow. Alright, cool. But again, now you'll see that it's overlapping with the ammo and reserve, and also the ammo and reserve is not the right size, and the ammo count itself is way too high up. So we're gonna try to remedy all of that, and this is made a lot easier because we actually did our panel positioning in the HUD layout.res file beforehand. So we're gonna play around with the panel coordinates a little bit to try to get it down on the same level as that HUD player health. That way, there's a nice, vertical alignment, or I guess horizontal alignment that makes the makes the HUD elements look nice. So in order to do that, we're actually going to reference how we positioned our player status health value within our HUD player health file. And this is where things can get really confusing, because since we used a text alignment of center here, then the way the HUD element is positioned is going to be different than here because it currently has a text alignment of southeast. Now, this is where an explanation on text alignment really comes in handy, and it becomes a really big deal, because when you're doing things like the ammo and your scoreboard, it's going to be pretty important that you have your text alignment right, otherwise things are going to overlap on accident and you're going to be confused as to why that is. So in order to do that, let's just use our HUD ammo weapons, or I guess our ammo and clip panels and the text alignment within them to kind of do a quick explanation. So you'll see here that I'm even going to go ahead and change this to 0, and I'll change this to like 2, just to further show you what's up here. And you'll see that we'll open up the VGUI draw tree, and we'll look at our ammo and clip, and you'll see that the ammo and clip is right up against this this right-hand side of the panel, and that's because we gave it a text alignment of, well, southeast, but again, we'll change it to east, and it should be pretty much the same. Let me do that really quick, just to verify that that is in fact pretty much the same. Right? Yeah. So it is pretty much the same. I think there might be a bit of a vertical distance change between southeast and east, but just for good measure, I would recommend only using east, because I'm pretty sure if you use anything other than that, like northeast or southeast, there's a bit of a discrepancy in the vertical alignment. So for my HUD reset that I made, and the tutorial series here, we're only going to be using east and west and center alignments, just because northwest and southeast and stuff like that that'll pop up. It might have decent, like, I guess, positional benefits, but it's nothing that you can't do just using east and west is a lot more, I guess, easy to understand. But anyway, sorry, I went off on a tangent there. What's going on here, you'll see, is that the ammo is actually positioned on the farther right-hand side of the panel, even though we gave it the coordinates of 0 on the X, which would, if we're going by the old standards, would put it in the upper left-hand corner. But because we gave it this east positioning, then it means that everything, all numbers and whatever, like whatever you put within this panel that has an east text alignment, that everything's going to be based off the east. So, for example, I think this would be easier to show using the pistol. See, you'll see that. God, this is really hard to explain. So hopefully I can do it properly. Again, with the 12 in the pistol ammo count, it's on the right-hand side, and basically it means that everything's always going to be on the right-hand side. See, unlike center before, where before, like on our health, when you take damage, eventually the numbers will center themselves based off of that frame. This is instead using like right alignment, as if you were typing in Microsoft Word. Everything's going to be coming from the right-hand side. So, for example, if I only have one ammo in the clip, then instead of having the ammo be right in between the 1 and the 2, like only one digit being right in between the 1 and the 2, it's always going to be on this right-hand side because it's right aligned with the panel. And unlike our health, which you'll see is centered, let me look at that player status health value, with it, which is centered right here in the middle of the frame, you'll see that if I damage myself, as the number of the digits go down and the amount of health I have left, it'll be perfectly centered above this team-colored bar. So let me do that right now, actually. So you'll see that as it's down to 2 digits, the 2 digits begin to kind of come together, and then disregard that cross right now. We'll fix that in a later video. That has to do with animations. You'll see that now that there's only 1 digit, it was perfectly centered underneath that team-colored line, and that's because it essentially had a center text alignment. So anything that is text aligned from the center in review is using a center to base all of its guidelines and measurements off of. Anything with a text alignment of east, or I guess any variation of that, northeast, southeast, will be centered from the east or the right-hand side of the panel, and then subsequently the west positioning will be centered from the west or the left side of the panel. So for our ammo, we're going to be using west and east because that way we can make the ammo counts always fit nice together with each other, and by nice I mean have our reserved ammo not ever overlap our active ammo and vice versa. But that's kind of a quick explanation that I think it's important to make that distinction. So anyways, going back to it, let's actually position, now that we know about panels, our ammo and clip and our ammo and clip shadow to be down on the same level with our HUD player health, so things look kind of aesthetically pleasing. And again, since we used different positioning, like the set of text alignment of center, and we made the wide and tall values the same size as the outer panel, then this is honestly going to be a bit of a guess and check, because you'll see that even if we wanted to do the same method where we made our I guess our X and Y positions 0 and then centered the ammo, or I guess not centered it, but if we made our ammo and clip shadow and our ammo and clip have 0 and Y, or X and Y coordinates of 0, and then we made the wide and tall values the same of the panel, the same size as the panel, instead of the text being where we wanted it to be, it would just be on the farther right-hand side, like you know, way off over here, and we don't want that. So this is going to kind of be a bit of guess and check, but generally speaking, you can get pretty close to what you want with not too much effort. You just kind of have to play around with it a bit. So keeping that in mind, we're going to actually position our panel now, and so we're going to look at this for reference. So again, we open this up, we look at our ammo and clip, and it looks like right now, if we move our panel down about, I guess maybe this looks like it's probably about 20, and we move it over from here to here, that's about 100, maybe 150. We'll go ahead and do that. And again, you'll remember that if we want to move it to the left, then we're going to have to use negative values, so we'll actually make it like negative 100, and then we'll do a HUD reload scheme, see what that looks like. And oh, looks like I went too far with that 100, so let's make it like a negative 50, and we'll do a HUD reload scheme again, and it's starting to come back. Alright, cool. So yeah, you can see now it's starting to kind of get in the area where we want, but it's still not 100% there. And also the panel itself looks like it might be too small, so this is where you might have to go back in and tweak your HUD weapon ammo file itself, because you'll see that if we switch to, I guess, maybe a class such as sniper, I think medic's probably the best one. Medic with the needles is a good way to tell if you're anything in your HUD, I guess HUD and ammo and clip thing is going to get cut off, because he has 200 needles in the clip. or not 200, but a pretty large amount. It's a good way to see if things are going to get cut off, just because it is one of the ones that has the most ammo in clip and ammo in reserve at any time ever. So just kind of a guideline. You can check that out, and you'll see here that the 40, or the 4 and the 40 actually is getting cut off, because again, we have our panel being cut off due to it actually going out of the bounds of our larger panel. So this is when you can kind of go back into your HUD layout.res and be like, okay, well, this was positioned pretty good, but for what I'm trying to do, I need to move the panel over a little bit to the left. That way I can shift everything in my HUD ammo weapons to the right. That way it doesn't get cut off. So what was it before? 125. We don't need it to be 125 anymore. We need it to be like, let's see, 105. And you'll see that when I do a HUD reload scheme, now it's going to shift everything in this file over to the left, about 20 units. Alright, so now that that's there, you'll see that the 40 is still cut off, but that's because, again, all we did was move the outer panel. We now have to shift this inner panel, I guess, back to the right. That way it's at the same position where it was previously. So if we gave it a value of -50, and we shifted everything over 20, then we need to take away 20. So then we'll make this -30. We'll do a HUD reload scheme, and you'll see, boom, now we now have our ammo on the screen again, which is good, because that means that I don't think there's anything that will get cut off with this. Like, I don't think there is, because I don't think there's anything where the ammo and clip is ever like triple digits. So if you can get it to work on 2 digits, then it should be fine. Although if you really want assurance, you can check the panel here and see if it gives you enough room. And again, it might be cut off a little bit more, and so just to assure that we're not going to run into problems again in the future, we're actually just going to shift it over 30, and then we'll go back to our HUD ammo and weapons panel and shift this over 10 more because we shifted it to the left, so then again we have to shift it back to the right to accommodate for it. And we'll check our panel, and what do you know? It looks like that should be more than enough room to fit in triple digits. And you'll see that now we'll look at our panel and it's shifted over slightly, but that's okay because now we can do our inner panel positioning to guarantee that things aren't cut off. So let's continue to move forward here. It looks like this maybe needs to be shifted over just a tiny bit to the left, maybe like 5, and then down about 20 to be where we want it to be. So we'll shift this over about 5. Oh, actually, right, see, because we want to move to the left, so the negative value actually has to go up. And then we'll move this down about 5. We'll do a HUD reload scheme. And, so I like the horizontal positioning, but the vertical is still a little bit off, so we're going to again do our guess and check, do a little more tweaking, make it 35, I guess will be a good place to start. And I'll go ahead and close this because we're not using this right now. And let's go ahead and position our background. It's hard to tell, but the nifty thing about this is as long as you have your wide and tall values and for your panel matching for the shadow, then like for the value up at the top here, then you can essentially just copy and paste the X, Y, modify them a little bit. So like we want this to be to the right a little more, so we'll make that -23, which is actually in the right direction instead of the left. And then make this 37. We'll do our HUD reload scheme, and there we go. So we have our ammo and clip down on about the same level as our HUD player health. And I think that's good for now. We might need to tweak it later, but just for means of positioning, that's okay. And then now we need to do our ammo in reserve. Now, here's what I was talking about with the overlap, right? Let me first of all move over my actually, on second thought, when I switch to a class like Scout where the scattergun clip is only like 1 digit, I think we might need to shift this over a little bit. So let's do that. Make it 30, and then 28. Again, we're shifting this to the left. Oh, that actually didn't do very much at all, did it? I only moved it over like 5. Alright, let's move it over quite a bit. We'll move it over like 20. See what that looks like. Alright, so I think I like that better. That should be fine for what we're doing. And then again, if we'll switch, again, you'll see if we switch to sniper, it still doesn't overlap with the control point icon, so that's good. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm really indecisive. I think a safe medium between the two should be fine. Yeah, that's good. That's good right there. I like how that's turning out. Now we need to do the ammo in reserve. because ammo in reserve is kind of a finicky thing, because this might seem counterintuitive, but if you don't make the text alignment to the west, and you'll see that it's already set up here. The TF people already kind of did it themselves, but they use southwest. If you don't make the text alignment to the west, then chances are your ammo in reserve and your ammo in clip will overlap. And the reasoning for that is because if you center everything on the right-hand side of the panel in the ammo in clip, and then you put the ammo in reserve panel right up next to it, like horizontally on the right-hand side of it, and you give it a text alignment of west, then that means that, here, let me go to paint really quick. It'll be easier to explain through drawing. Let's say this is your ammo in clip, right? And you have it eastern aligned, so your 6 is right here. Then you move your ammo in reserve panel right here, and you give it a western alignment, so this will be from the left-hand side. Then you'll see that as your ammo count goes down, so like let's assume your ammo in clip goes from 32 down to 16, then instead of the 16 potentially being on the right-hand side here, or even if you have the panels on top of each other being on the right-hand side and it potentially overlapping with the 6, then the 16 will be still centered on the left, so it'll still be right up next to this number. And then let's assume that our ammo in clip goes down to a 1. Because we have it centered on the east side, then we'll have 1 and a 16, and they still won't overlap. And then let's assume our ammo in reserve goes down to an 8. So again, they still won't overlap because their panels are right up next to each other, and because this is centered from the right and this is centered from the left, you don't have to worry about it. So hopefully that makes some sense. I don't know. Hopefully it does. I don't know. I don't know if it will. And again, you'll see that when I did my HUD reload scheme, again, the southwest and the northwest and the southeast and the northeast have a little bit of a vertical discrepancy. Because if I re-add in the southwest here and I do a HUD reload scheme, you'll see the ammo in reserve number will actually go down a little bit, right? And we don't want that because that just makes things confusing. So we're going to get rid of it. And this goes back to styling guidelines. You can honestly make it whatever you want, like your ammo in reserve, but I personally like to make it something around half the size of our ammo in clip and our health color, just because that way someone can quickly look down and glance and see, okay, well, you know, this one has this, like this much in my clip and this much in reserve, because there's such a size difference. So we're going to go to our font definitions and try to find that. So I think our name is Bico, right? Bico Bold is what we're using. And we use Bico Bold 56, and so half of that would be 28. And again, we have the Bico Bold 28 font definition. And again, like you guys, the wonders of this is that it's so easy to add in new fonts that if you don't already have the font size you want, you can just quickly make a new definition, change the tall, and you're good to go. But we've already added that in, so we know what we want. So we're just going to, again, copy the same colors as the ammo in clip. But, so like, you know, of course our ammo in reserve is going to have a white, and then our ammo in reserve shadow is going to be black. But our font size is going to be slightly different. So we want to have a font size of half of the Bico Bold 56, so we're going to use Bico Bold 28. And again, we'll change it down here. Bico Bold 28. We'll do our HUD reload scheme. And there you go. So that's pretty cool. That already looks pretty good, even though it's not even positioned properly, in my opinion. And again, you'll see that since we centered it from the west, let me just go ahead and move this down initially. But it'll be really easy to tell that because we centered this from the east and the west, then there won't ever be any overlap. So, one second, let me do this a little bit more. We'll try 29 and 28. 38 and 39. Again, you have to really do a lot of guess and check when you're doing this until you really start to figure out how you want things here. And then we'll move it out a little bit. So our ammo in reserve will be 64, and this will be 65. You'll see that now, even though these ammo counts are right up next to each other, they won't ever overlap, right? Because you'll see that as the ammo in clip goes down, it doesn't ever touch the ammo in reserve. And then as the ammo in reserve goes down, it doesn't ever move farther away from the ammo in clip because of that positioning that we set up for it. And that's what I think is really cool about the, I guess, the text alignment, is that you can do that. And so this is already starting to look pretty good. I kind of actually like the ammo in reserve to the upper right-hand corner of the ammo in the clip, But I feel like they're a little too squished together, so let's space these guys out just a little smidgen. Put this to about 69, this to about a 70. And again, our ammo and reserve and our ammo and reserve shadow only have a, I guess a drop shadow of 1 unit. You know, it goes from 69 to 70 and 38 to 39. And again, that's kind of one of those things where you don't want to have the smaller elements having a, I guess a positional, or I guess a drop shadow of the same size as the larger ones, because to the everyday user that could be confusing. So you don't have to do that. These are just guidelines that I personally go by because I don't know, I guess I find them to be useful. Anyways, we're about done with this. We've got our ammo and clip and our ammo and reserve all set up nice and just like we want it. However, you'll see that if we switch to the sniper or the pyro or the heavy, our other value here, our ammo no clip, is still kind of having some issues. And when we do the positioning for this, it's actually going to be interesting because the last thing I want to do is I want to add a box to the HUD, and we're going to cover how to do that. But if we want our ammo to be perfectly centered within that box, we can't use the east or the west alignment, because since there's only one HUD element we're working with here, if we centered it to the east or the west, then whenever the ammo count number went down, you know, it might look kind of weird, because then the ammo would be on the right-hand side of the box or the left-hand side of the box, and we just want it to be in the center, similar to our health. So we're actually going to change this to a center, and because we're doing it like this, our positioning for this is going to be a lot different than the ammo and reserve and the ammo and clip. So we make our adjustments here, and again, we want to match the styling of our ammo and clip exactly, because again, since this is the only number that will show up when you have this weapon out, I think it's important to make sure that everything's fairly large on the screen. And again, it's a styling thing, right? Because you want your ammo count to match the health. And again, there we go, we already have that. But again, you'll notice here that the drop shadow is only 1. We want it to be 2. So we make our adjustment here. And again, I did a bad thing. I forgot to get rid of all this garbage. Let's get rid of that really quick. Again, we don't need any of this. And we make our adjustment here. X position and Y position. Drop shadow of 2. There we go, that looks pretty cool. And now we just need to position it. And again, this is weird because since we're doing this styled differently than our ammo and clip and our ammo and reserve, then we have to position it differently. So we can use the panel guidelines to help us out to do our positioning, which we will do now. Ammo no clip shadow. Alright, so these guys look pretty good. But we want it to match kind of our ammo and reserve and our ammo and clip in terms of size, or not size, positioning. So you'll see that we have our ammo and clip and our ammo and reserve down probably 50, and then to the right I'd say about 20-30. So we're going to make that adjustment. So we'll move this down about 50, so we'll try 40 just to see what that looks like. And move it to the right about 50, 52. HUD reload scheme. And that's pretty close. I think we actually got the Y position almost exactly the same. Maybe it's a little bit off, so we'll bump this up to a 40, and this to a 42. And you'll see, boom, now it looks like there's not any vertical movement, and now we just have to adjust the horizontal. So we want to move it over to the left some, so we'll lower this value to, I'd say, probably 25, 27. HUD reload scheme, and I think that looks pretty good, right? They're in about the exact same place on the screen. And I feel like it does a good job for what we want. So I mean, honestly, the only thing I would say that we could potentially do differently is maybe shift it over a little bit to the left, but only a smidgen. So we'll move this over to 5, move this over to 22. And yeah, that I feel like that looks better because that's more centered on the screen than this. But last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add in a box because I want a box, and people complain to me on my current HUD. They're like, "Hey man, where's the box version?" I'm like, "Whoa, calm down. I'm not about that life." So we're gonna go ahead and add a box really quick. And again, this is one of those things where it's easier to reference, but I will try to explain what exactly it is that we're doing as I do it, because you know, there's no sense in reinventing the wheel, but if you want to understand the inner workings behind it, then I understand that because I'm the same way. So we're actually going to take something from my HUD in order to do this. So let me go ahead and dig in here. We're going to dig into Rays HUD, Resource UI. And we're actually going to take this from the scoreboard. And you'll get to see a lot more of this when we actually create the scoreboard, because the scoreboard's really dependent on your own creativity because it's so flexible in what you can do. But we're actually going to take this scoreboard background, which is pretty cool. And we're just going to paste it in here in our ammo file here. Actually, you know what? We'll cover that in the next video. This could get complicated. I don't want to confuse you guys. So we're already at 30 minutes. We've got our basic ammo set up here, and sweet. So we're good to go. Next video, then I guess we'll cover a few more things such as boxes and whatnot, and then we'll take a look into maybe doing some basic animations. You know, like changing the color of the health when you're hurt, or having your ammo change colors when you're running low, and it should be pretty fun. Anyways, until next time, dudes, good luck in the HUD editing, and thanks for watching.